2006, the band Cake released an album called Fashion Nugget. And on that album, they featured a song called I Will Survive, which is actually a cover of the famous I Will Survive song that we all know. There's a great bass line in it, and that is the song that I'm going to be covering this week. Now, why that song? Not only there's a great bass line, but actually it's someone that I know that is planning an event online, and using a software called Jamkazam, we're going to be able to play online together synchronously, which is usually the problem when we meet on web conference platforms, right? So this tool, Jamkazam, allows us to play together, and I love it because here in Montreal, we are still under strict restrictions due to the pandemic out there. So, I mean, we still have a curfew that we have to respect. Here are the main root notes of the song. It starts with an A, then a D, then a G, then a C, an F, and a B. All right? So these are the root notes. Now, of course, it's a bit more complicated than that. It's going to sound like this. These are all minor chords, all right? So A, and really it's the pentatonic scale. So this is the A minor pentatonic, D minor pentatonic, and then we keep going. G minor pentatonic, and then C minor pentatonic, and then F minor pentatonic, and B. So the last chord, the last section, it's so B, then the fifth, and then the octave. Right? The last bit is just a progression starting from the F flat, then you go to the G flat, then you walk chromatically. G flat, G, A flat, A. All right. So basically, that's the song. So now the challenges. All right. So what were the challenges that I faced learning this bass line? The first challenge that I had while trying to learn the bass line, where I had the most difficulty with, was just going. So if I start on the A, so it goes like so, twice the root and then the octave, and then the two following notes are the fourth or the 11th and the flat 7 right there. So and that was the problem that I kept on having, going from this note to that note, or in the second chord going from this note to that one. All right, so what I would do is exactly what I'm doing now, which is pressing the both strings together, right? Like this. Like this, right? So the problem was that it didn't feel natural. It never felt natural until now. I do it now. And somehow I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm sure that a lot of people do it that way, and they're fine. But I didn't like it. So what I do whenever I know I'm hitting the right notes, but I don't like the feel, I don't like how it sounds, something is wrong, I'm not comfortable with it, I just go on YouTube and watch a bunch of other bass covers, because even if the music is the same, different bassists will do will do things their own way. So I look for different ways, and so I found a bassist on YouTube that covers the same song. And he actually says to pay attention to the fingering, to what finger he uses. And he says, use those fingers. I never think that one size fits all, by the way, but there are different ways to do things, right? So, and this is what he did. Instead of going from this to this, he went from this, and then he used his middle finger and put it there. And I said, you know what? Let me give it a try. Let me try it. And as soon as I tried it, it felt really good. So I stuck with that. So. All right. So that was my first struggle. If you have any other tip, if you know of another way to attack those two notes, those, that pattern of notes, let me know. All right. So that was my first challenge. All right, so my second challenge was transitioning from the second chord to the third chord, and then from the fourth chord to the fifth chord, because the last note of the second chord is A, right here, and I have to go from here, the A, to the G, which is the root note of the third chord. All right, now so it goes like this. All right, and I've always had problems doing that move, going from there to there, especially in the short amount of time that I have to do that. So I started looking for other places on the fretboard to hit that A, maybe somewhere closer to this G, but I didn't find something satisfactory. So I just decided to practice this over and over until I get it right. And I still, to this date, I still don't have it like completely right. And the same situation happens again when you go from the fourth chord, which is the C, to the fifth chord, which is the F, and they're minor chords, right? So the last note of the C chord is, in this sequence, is the G. So you have to go from G to F. So another place where there's a G is the last or the first string. I never know which one it is. All right, so you can do this instead. And then the F, all right? So that's a workaround. Challenge number 3. Making sure that it sounds clean without having strings that are ringing. Especially when I have to move fast from, like I was saying in the challenge number 2, which is like going from the A to the G, then because I'm trying to go too fast, I sometimes hit open chords, and then it makes a lot of noise and it doesn't sound clean. So one thing that I worked on, and that I've been working on, to be honest with you, is how to mute the chords more efficiently. And I'm lucky enough to actually have a wife that got me as a present a subscription to the Scott Bass Academy. So and if you don't know what that is, please go. I'm not being paid by Scott Divine here, but the content that they have is awesome. There's a ton of resources in there, forums, you have a bunch of courses, you have tools that you can use, and great professional bass players that actually give you courses, tips, interviews, There's a lot there. Anyway, so Scott talks about how to mute, and his technique is the one that I try to learn, and it's not easy, but I'm already doing much better now than I used to. So basically, he always makes sure that his thumb is resting on the strings that are not being used, right? So if I'm playing the A string, so make sure that your thumb rests on the E string. If I'm playing the D string, make sure that the thumb is resting on those two last strings. And if I'm playing on the G string, make sure that the thumb is resting on the three last strings, all right, so that it's always muted. And so that's the technique that I'm trying to use with this. So I still learning, and I'm still having trouble using it, but this is how this is what it looks like. That's it. This was my very first video that shows you what my process is, what my challenges are, and how I try to overcome them. But of course, I'm gonna need a lot of time to get better, and make sure that you help me out by leaving comments if you are a professional bass player, or if you are an experienced bass player, or perhaps a beginner bass player, but that know of a trick or a way to do something that's easier. Let me know in the comments. But to do that, you have to subscribe to my channel. You have to turn on your notifications so that you know when my videos are coming out. My next video, the actual cover, will come out this weekend, so stay tuned and make sure you don't miss it.